Piece 122, The Scream by Edward Munch, made in 1893, and this one is tempera and pastels on cardboard. There are 4 different Scream versions, all of them pretty similar. They are, though, also a part of a larger whole series titled The Frieze of Life. And in this series, Edward Munch deals with some pretty dark topics: death, life, and dread. This is likely based on the fact that his sister and his mother had died in the previous 4 years of tuberculosis. Each of these is made with 4 different forms, materials: oil, pastel, tempera, and actually crayon on this one, which is the one I have behind me. So there's lots of discussion about which is the best of those screams, made over a period of 17 years. The screams are sought after pieces of art. This crayon version sold for $120 million in 2012 to an American investor named Leon Black. So sought after, they have been stolen. In 1961, 1994, and 2004, this one that you see here on this video camera was being taken from the Oslo, Norway Museum. So quite popular. All of those stolen ones have been recovered, by the way. Okay, context. Where did Edward Munch get inspiration for this piece? Well, other than his sister and his mother's passing, which would count for big context, the bright orange of the sky was possibly based on the eruption of Mount Krakatoa, which is a massive volcano on Indonesia, and it erupted 10 years prior to this, so in 1883. But Edward Munch would have seen hugely orange skies like this even way up in Norway, because that eruption of that volcano was so great. The ash went around the world and influenced the entire world's sky. This is an image of Mount Krakatoa, and it was actually active still in 2022, and an island has since been created based on that volcanic activity. Pretty amazing. Another contextual influencer was likely a view that Edward Munch had of Peruvian mummies that were on display in Paris in 1889. Now you can see from these skulls that in the Peruvian culture, it was sought after for elite Peruvians to bind their skulls, starting at birth, when the skulls are very malleable, into this more oblong shape. So we think that Edward Munch might have been influenced by that. In terms of form, this is a really fun organization of a piece. Some say, listen to a couple art historians say that it's just surprisingly simple. And what it's composed of is a bridge. You see it's very linear here, down on the lower left. It creates a line almost, dividing the piece into 2. And on the bridge are 3 figures. Then to the right of the bridge, there is this lake with 2 boats in it. And around the lake, in a more organic shape than that very linear bridge, so quite a contrast, is the landscape done in dark colors. And then the sky meets that landscape, as all skies do, but this one has been colored in orange, yellow, and red, so it really stands out and is a contrast to all the other colors. And then in terms of form, the figures on the bridge, in our screen, the 2 figures are also very tall, very linear. There's not much action. In the one that's behind me, you can see there's a figure that's leaning on the railing. Then there is this central figure who has a skull shape head, and it curves just like this landscape. That whole curvature just really fits the landscape curvature, with large hands, and his body curves like the landscape as well. So in terms of, that should say content, not context. In terms of content, Munch's diary from January 1892 really explains this piece. He writes, "I was walking along the road with two friends. The sun went down. I felt a gust of melancholy. Suddenly the sky turned a bloody red. I stopped, leaned against the railing, tired to death, as the flaming skies hung like blood and sword over the blue-black fjord and the city. My friends went on. I stood there trembling with anxiety, and I felt a vast, infinite scream tear through nature." So he really describes that event, which we know he experienced, likely at a maybe at a resort. At any rate, he has described it really well for us. The function of this piece is that it gives us a visual of synesthesia. So synesthesia is where an artist will visually represent something that they hear or that they taste. In this case, it's a sound. It's the scream of nature that Munch is showing us in this art. So that's synesthesia, representing visually something that you hear or taste. And it is also a representation of symbolism. So symbolism was an art period in history where it reacted to realism. So reacting to the stone breakers, right, that were so real, it was just lifelike. And this symbolism favors spirituality, imagination, and dreams. And you can see that in this piece, right? This is definitely dreams and imagination. And so here he is representing this cry of nature that he imagined or experienced in his mind or in a dream. Most likely just in his mind, based on that entry into his journal. So the function of this is that it helps us to see synesthesia and symbolism. It is The Scream by Edward Munch, made in 1893 using tempera and pastels on cardboard.